Hi, I'm David Taub, and welcome to the Parshah Rabbit Hole, where I find something weird in the weekly Torah portion and follow it all the way down until it gets even weirder. This week's rabbit hole is going to be a little bit different. Over the past few weeks, I've been posting each week's episode a little bit later and later, so in an effort to get ahead a little bit, I asked some friends and family to help me out with this week's episode by creating a kind of collaborative rabbit hole. But the way that I've asked them to help is loosely based on the Parshah. In this week's Torah portion, Parshas Nasso, one of the things that we learn about is how the Nesiim, the leaders of each of the tribes, gave gifts on the day of the inauguration of the Mishkan. Each of the 12 Nesiim gave exactly the same thing, and it's a long list of a bunch of different animals and utensils and incense and stuff. And the Torah repeats that entire list 12 times, one time for each of the Shvatim, each of the tribes. But when the Midrash expands on these verses, it explains the unique significance of these items differently for each of the Shvatim, each of the tribes, based on the unique experiences and qualities of each one. So even though they all gave the same exact gifts, those gifts have a different meaning for each tribe because of who they are. So I asked a few friends and family members to each donate the same thing, the weirdest Torah source they could find that somehow connected to this week's Torah portion. And even though they each had the same assignment, that meant something different for each of them. So if you're ready to see what gifts we were given, let's dive in. Okay, so I'm going to go in order of how each topic shows up in the Parsha. We'll start with my friend Hershey Sufrin, who is an incredible artist, and also has an amazing talent for finding and communicating weird midrashim and stuff. Hershey, take it away.
I think the most interesting thing in Parshas Nasso is the whole procedure of the Sotah. Now, a Sotah is a woman who's suspected of committing adultery against her husband, but we're not sure. So he brings her to the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, where she drinks a special potion. According to the Torah, this potion, which is a mixture of water and dust and some words, it's able to determine whether or not she's in fact guilty. What happens is she drinks the water, and then if she's innocent, then a bunch of good stuff happens to her. If she's guilty, it's not good. Now, there's a whole section of Talmud that deals with the what's, hows, and whys of the Sotah procedure, but the rabbit hole for me is the question of whether or not this ever actually happened. Hear me out. Just because the Torah is saying, here's what you should do if there's a woman who, and he warns, and there's witnesses, doesn't mean it ever actually happened, right? And even if they did have to do the Sotah procedure, who's to say how many of those women were actually guilty and died in the Beis HaMikdash? In fact, there's a sefer called the Tziyuni, which makes that claim. It says, Sotah loy haisa v'loy nivra. There never was a guilty Sotah ever in Jewish history. Which brings us to a fascinating midrash, which tells the story of a woman who is suspected of adultery, and she's told that she has to go to the Beis HaMikdash and go through the Sotah ritual. Here's the thing. She's guilty, and she knows it. And she knows that if she drinks that water, she's going to die a miraculous death. Luckily, she's got a twin sister who lives a few towns over. So the good twin and the evil twin switch places. Now the good twin goes to the Beis HaMikdash, drinks the water, and nothing happens because she's innocent. She literally saved the evil twin's life by covering for her. So when the evil twin comes over to the good twin to say thank you, she gives her a big hug and a kiss on the lips. The same lips that just drank the Sotah water. As soon as that happened, the evil twin died on the spot. And that's why you never want to be the evil twin.
I actually don't mind being the evil twin. It's actually kind of fun. You get to just like do bad stuff all day and
Thank you so much, Hershey. And also, thank you to Evil Hershey. So when I was putting together the source sheet for this, I discovered that this is a whole rabbit hole in and of itself, with some interesting twists and controversies. Maybe I'll get a chance to dig into that in depth in the future, but for now, some of those sources are in the source sheet that's in the description for this video. Okay, next up is one of my very first chavrusas, one of my first Talmudic study buddies from like 25 years ago, Yisroel Arye Gootblatt, who's an amazing musician and shares my passion for expressing and sharing Torah through art. Let's hear what he has to say.
One of the strangest halachas in the Torah are the set of halachas about a Nazir. So a Nazir takes a vow, a man or woman, and they become thereby forbidden to drink wine, to cut their hair, or to become impure from the dead. But there's another kind of Nazir that the Rambam describes, and that is Nazir Shimshon. And this, Rambam says, is we get from Divrei Kabbalah. We get this from our tradition. Now, this, and the Rambam goes on to say that any person could take such a Nazirus, can say that they're Nazir Shimshon, and they have to specify that they mean that specific Shimshon in Tanakh, in Sefer Shoftim. And in that case, the person will not be able to cut their hair, they will not be able to drink any wine, they will be able to become impure with the dead, and they will also never be able, even in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, never be able to remove this vow, remove this Nazirus. Just like Shimshon, it was his vow for life. I was wondering, where do we find this category hinted at in the original Parsha of Nazirus, where it talks about the Nazir who is forbidden from wine, from cutting their hair, and from becoming impure in the dead. So we find this with a very strange word, very mysterious word. The Pasuk says, Isha, Isha, ki yafli, man or woman, who will yafli. So there's different interpretations of this word, and they'll make a vow of Nazirus. Now, how do we see this connecting to Shimshon and Tanakh? So it says that when Shimshon's mother and father received this vision of an angel, they asked him what his name was. He says his name was Feli. So Rashi explains that means his name is unknowable. But according to the Medrash, it says that was his actual name. Peli was his name. And so this hints to the idea that this Nazirus in the category of Shimshon that any person could take is also hinted at in the Chumash.
Thank you so much, Yisroel Arye. For more cool stuff from Yisroel Arye, subscribe to his YouTube channel. He told me that he's trying to release a new song every week. I'm not sure if that is humanly possible, but you can definitely go see if he's living up to it. And he's also going to be sharing Torah and his personal journey as a musical chassid. The link is in the description for this video. Check it out. Okay, now continuing with the topic of Nazir is my dear brother-in-law, Mendy Korer, who's the co-director of Chabad Islington in London, England, which the best way I can describe it is that it's the Disneyland of synagogues. They've taken Jewish education out of the box of the classroom and have a Jewish art gallery and offer Jewish history walking tours of London. It's amazing. So now that I've built that up too much, here's Mendy.
In this week's Parshah, we discuss the Nazir, the person that chooses to live a more sacred life. A famous Nazir in history is Shimshon or Samson. And one of the activities of a Nazir would be not drinking wine. So it would be an interesting exploration for David to go and look at everything about the relationship of alcohol and wine in Judaism. One of my favorite little thoughts or points of caution that there is in Judaism about alcohol is as follows. There's 4 levels to drink alcohol. Our first level is compared to a sheep. A sheep that in a herd, it always follows along where everyone else goes. So there you are in a group and you'll drink a little bit going along. Then your next layer after that is the lion. You drink a little bit more, you're feeling like you're strong and you're brave and you could go out and do whatever you want. Our next layer after that is like the monkey. You drink a little bit more, you start prancing around, doing silly things. And then finally drink a little bit more, you become like a pig and you're rolling around in the mud. L'chaim.
Thank you, Mendy. So I hadn't actually heard this midrash before, but what I realized when I heard it is that it seems to be the original source for one of my favorite details in Seder HaDoros, which is a book of Jewish history written in the 1700s, and that detail is that Noah fertilized his vineyard with monkey blood. And as tempting as it might be to delve into that for the next 20 minutes, we gotta move on. The next gift is from my brother, Shais Taub, who is a world-renowned speaker and teacher and advice giver and author and lots of other very important stuff. And somehow, between all of those very important things, he finds the time to help me with the Parshah rabbit hole in so many different ways every week. So instead of any of those very important titles, I'll introduce him by the most important title for me, my brother, Shais Taub.
I think I understood the assignment. I need to find something weird and rabbit hole worthy in Parshas Nasso. Well, Parshas Nasso is the longest Parsha of the Torah, so you would think there's plenty there, although a lot of it is repetitious. It's the gifts of the Nesiim over and over and over again, the same gifts. Nevertheless, though, you have a lot of verses, so there should be a lot of potential. I'll tell you where I looked. And I do think I have a good nose for the weird. I also think I helped you a little bit develop your, I'm talking to you, David, your nose for the weird. And so there's a little portal to the paranormal in Parshas Nasso. Where might we find it? Well, the Birkas Kohanim, the priestly blessing. Did you ever notice that on Yom Tov, when the Kohanim bench, when they bless the congregation, there's a prayer that we say. It's in our prayer book. It starts with the words, Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the Worlds, and we proceed to say, Master of the Worlds, I am yours and my dreams are yours. I dreamt a dream and I don't know what's the deal with it. I don't know what's up with it. If it was a bad dream, either about me or about others, nullify anything bad about these dreams. Okay, so I understand the concern to nullify bad dreams, but why, of all times, are we trying to get that done during the priestly blessing? What does it have to do with anything? The priestly blessing has 60 letters if you count it out. And when you count it, make sure that you count Hashem's name as 4 letters, because it's really Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, the tetragrammaton. Now, you may notice that in the bedtime Shema, before we say the priestly blessing, we say a verse from Shir Hashirim, Canticles of Canticles, as you call it, David, which is by Shlomo Melech, King Solomon. And it says, Hine mitose shel Shlomo, behold the bed of Shlomo, of Solomon. Shishim gebedim saviv lo, 60 strong men surround it. Mi gebeda Yisroel, from the strong men of Israel. Kulam achuzei cherev, they're all holding swords. Malumde milchama, they are learned in the art of war. Ish harbe al yirecha, each one has a sword on his hip. Mi pachad ba'leilos, to ward off the fears of the night. Who are these Shishim Gebedim, these 60 strong men? They are the 60 letters of the Birkas Kohanim. And therefore, I take you to, am I doing this right? Is this the rabbit hole style? To the Yalkut Shimoni, Remiz Tov Shin Yud. Yalkut Shimoni 710, where it says, what does it mean? Mipachad ba'leilos, the fears of the night. Mipachad shara ba'leilos bechalaymai, the fear that you saw in your dream at the night. V'raya es hakohanim noisim es kapehem, and somebody who sees the kohanim lifting their hands, that's what it's called, lifting their hands. They do the Spock sign, which I'm not going to do. When they lift their hands, it's called Nesias Kapayim. Hachaloim ra misbatel mimenu. This bad dream will become nullified from it, from seeing the Kohanim lift their hands. So there we have the priestly blessing, which is not only a blessing, but it is 60 strong men surrounding you to ward off any negative repercussions of scary dreams. Now, take a shovel and start digging. I think you're going to find a lot more in that direction.
Thank you, Shais. There is indeed a rabbit hole there. I scratched the surface of it a little bit when I was doing research for the rabbit hole on dreams, but I didn't see that midrash from Yalkut Shimoni, so hopefully I'll get to dig deeper into that in a future episode. Alright, that's it. That's the rabbit hole. As always, if you have questions or cool things you want to share, put it in the comments. Thank you again so much to Hershey Sufrin, Yisroel, Arye, Gootblatt, Mendy Korer, and Shais Taub. If you want to see more from them, I'll put links to their stuff in the description for this video. Thank you for following me down the rabbit hole, which this week is more like a web of 4 separate but interconnected rabbit holes, which will probably make it even harder to find your way out.